If you have questions or suggestions for future podcasts, please submit them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The inflation tax. Hi, I'm Dave Arnott, the Christian Economist. Well, all dogs may go to heaven, but no taxes will. The idea actually stems from James Madison, who wrote in Federalist Paper 51, "If men were angels, no government would be necessary." You see, the purpose of taxes is to fund the government. It is only necessary because humans have a fallen nature. When we're angels in heaven, no government will be necessary, so taxes won't exist. Actually, stating that the purpose of taxes is to fund government puts me in something of a minority these days. In the textbook we use at Dallas Baptist University, our author, Gregory Mankiw, says that 83% of economists agree that the redistribution of income is an acceptable role for the government. As we will see in today's podcast, wealth is being redistributed by the inflation tax, but it's being distributed in a regressive form. More is being taken from the poor in taxes because of inflation. In our recent book, Biblical Economic Policy, Sergei Seidamatov and I explain that taxes are a necessary evil in a fallen world. So the first assumption is that they should be kept as low as possible. And clearly, they won't exist in a perfect state as we perceive heaven to be. How we got here. In the macro model that you're now looking at, I explain the two entities who have an impact on the U.S. economy: the government with fiscal policy and the Federal Reserve Bank, who guides monetary policy. Milton Friedman famously said, "Inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon." Well, he died in 2006, but I think he would change his mind if he saw the kind of outrageous spending that's going on today. He might say that inflation is caused by monetary and fiscal policy. I don't think he ever predicted that the U.S. government's fiscal policy would produce a $2.5 trillion annual deficit. Okay, here's a one-sentence summary of fiscal and monetary policy that caused inflation to be at a 40-year high. Government spent too much money, and the Fed kept the interest rate at zero for too long. Done. For more details about how the federal government is pumping up this historic inflation, I'll refer you to my podcast number 101, Inflating Inflation. The dual mandate. When the Fed was founded in 1913, it had one mandate: stable prices. Their job was to control inflation, which you see on the left side of the macro model. In 1977, they received their second mandate, which is full employment, on the right side of the diagram. Old fogies like me think they should have only one mandate: controlling inflation. And it's times like this, with inflation running at 7.5%, that guys like me kind of look like geniuses. See, the reason we are having inflation, at least from the monetary point of view, is because the Fed kept the interest rate near zero to try to lower unemployment. It worked, but it caused inflation. Matthew 6:24 says, "You can't serve two masters. For either you will hate the one and love the other, or else you will hold to one and despise the other." That scripture applies to the Fed, who tries to do two things at the same time. There's another reason the Fed should not have the second mandate about controlling unemployment. That's because monetary policy can lower unemployment only for the short term, and eventually it will return to its natural rate. For more on that, see my podcast number 21, titled Economic Humanism, and perhaps number 41, called In the Fed We Trust. 5 inflation taxes. Number 1, the wages tax. In economics, real means after inflation. Inflation is now reducing the real earnings of many Americans. As the purchasing power of a dollar falls, many Americans are taxed on the extent to which their paychecks aren't keeping up with inflation. Numbers I saw indicated that inflation was about 7.8% and wages were up about 5.5%. Okay, if you're doing the math, that means workers are suffering about a 2.3% loss in real wages. So you might be thinking at this point, well, who cares? Inflation is defined as increasing costs and wages. If my wages go up with costs, so what? Well, Here are just two so whats. So what number one? As you make more money, you move up to a higher tax bracket. It's called bracket creep. Okay, the price of imports goes up. This is another podcast that hopefully I'll write at a later date. But I think we may be leaving the golden age of low-cost products in the U.S. A perfect storm of about 5 effects are happening at the same time. People leaving the workforce, inflation, declining real wages, tariff increases, shrinking world trade. Look for more on that topic in an upcoming podcast. Now back to my list of the 5 taxes. We've said 1 was the wages tax. Number 2 is the housing tax. While homeowners are likely happy to see the value of their homes rising, they won't be so excited when their property taxes go up at their next assessment. They can also expect to face higher insurance premiums on their inflated home values. The cost of utilities is rising, and the poor, who often are renters, are not immune from these inflationary pressures, since landlords pass along their inflation-driven costs. Number 3, the food tax. Another way inflation is raising taxes on ordinary Americans is through the taxes on the goods and services they consume. The cost of groceries and going out to eat, those are both increasing. Economics is the study of the production and distribution of products and services. Well, all products get distributed, and people who provide services distribute themselves in planes, trains, and automobiles. The 4th, the sales tax. Sales taxes are set as a percentage of the item you buy. But as the price goes up, the percentage remains the same, but the total sales tax goes up. See? Some states even tax food. While teaching in Eastern Europe, I showed the students my receipt from the local grocery store and complained about the 21% value-added tax on food. An Eastern European student asked, "Well, you have to make the poor pay taxes in some form." I was astounded. To my Western ears, making the poor pay didn't ring well. But that's what's happening now in our country, the United States. The poor are being forced to pay higher prices for goods and the sales taxes that come with them. Oh, by the way, food is not taxed in the U.S., but just about everything else you buy is. And those are regressive taxes that increase as you proceed down the food chain, to use a phrase, or as income decreases, to be more specific. The 5th one, the retirement tax. Okay, as I get closer to retirement, along with my fellow 75 million baby boomers, I'm becoming more concerned that my savings from 50 years in the workforce will be enough. The inflation tax is particularly difficult for retirees because it eats away at the real rates of return on savings accounts, certificates of deposits, and fixed income securities. Americans with such savings are receiving negative rates of return after adjusting for inflation. The Fed raised the discount rate to a range of 0.25% to 0.5%. Inflation is at 7.8. Okay, 7.8 minus 0.5 means retirees are losing over 7% each year. Each year. So over 3 years, compounded, that's a quarter of your lifestyle. A pretty smart guy once called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. He said, "He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it." That smart guy was Albert Einstein. He gave a pretty good explanation for what's happening in the middle of the year 2022. The federal government is reducing the pain of paying off its debt on the backs of the poor who are paying the inflation taxes. Regressive taxes. While the wealthy can hire experts to shelter their income and savings from inflation, poor people don't have financial advisors to move their investments to gold, real estate, and stocks that go up with inflation. And to make the point more carefully, the poor really don't have investments. They have to buy milk and diapers on the daily market at inflated prices, while the rich can delay the purchase of yachts and vacation homes. Poor people spend a much larger portion of their earnings on essentials such as groceries and rent. The current inflation tax we are now suffering under the Biden administration falls most heavily on the poorest Americans. Earn, save, give. Okay, so who benefits from inflation? Those in debt. See, Scripture tells us to avoid debt as much as possible, but inflation encourages debt. In podcast number 10, I quoted John Wesley saying, "Earn all you can, save all you can, give all you can." Inflation encourages people to spend all you can because dollars lose value the longer you hold them. Let that fact sink in. Dollars lose value. The Brazilian economy still shows signs of the constant inflation that plagued the country for the last half of the 20th century. In 1942, their currency was called the Cruzeiro. Hope I pronounced that right. Then in 1967, it was trashed and replaced by the new Cruzeiro. And in 1994, it was replaced by the Real, the plural of which is reais. Sorry, I always mispronounce that. Anyway, even today, some years later, a culture of spending money still exists in Brazil. They don't keep money because they're accustomed to spending it as fast as they can. See, it's really quite astounding. Even in a typical Walmart ad, you'll see the cash price and then the monthly payment plan price. You see, taking on debt and spending money quickly is encouraged in an inflationary environment that eats away at the value of a currency. See, upon returning to the U.S. after one of my trips to Brazil, I concluded Dave Ramsey's seminar would save this country. Meaning, Dave Ramsey encourages people to save and avoid debt, while inflation encourages people to spend and take on debt. Because of those encouragements that are currently being promoted by fiscal and monetary policy are anti-biblical. We are taught to save money and avoid debt, but our national economic decision makers are encouraging the opposite. I'm Dave Arnott, the Christian Economist. Fear God, tell the truth, earn a profit. See you next time. For more information, please visit us online at davearnott.com. If you have questions or suggestions for future podcasts, please submit them online or in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.